All
Okay.
right. The question is coolest rivalry, best story.
Coolest rivalry.
There's
Okay.
okay.
So we have to stick with the ones that we chose, yeah?
You can show. Do you have an alternative? Because I kind of cheated a little bit.
No, no, no. I like mine. I like mine.
You like yours? Siawish?
In terms of coolest, we have Mughal and the Maratha would be quite cool. I
That's
think
what I'm
that
saying, dude. Choose that one.
Go. Yeah. Go.
yeah,
Go
Mughal and
do
Maratha.
one.
We'll go with
I
that
think
one.
we.
Plus, I wish you're Indian anyway, man. Just choose it.
Okay. And we're gonna do a little bit of an edit here. We were discussing so many different choices for really cool picks for this argument, which is about which is the coolest rivalry. So we're back.
No. No, I don't think I will.
And we're ready to go. I'm going with the Crusaders. Tarek is going with.
Safavids and I guess Ottomans.
All right. And Sawish.
The Mughals and the Marathas.
Perfect. Okay. I think it's my turn to go first because last time I bailed. So let me get the clock and I'm ready to go. The rivalry between the Islamic States and the Crusaders is just out of this world.
Hey, son, I wanted to talk to you. I know religion's important and all, but I think you might be taking it a...
It's there's a reason why so many books have been written about them, some of which are bad and paint this more of a white versus black conflict. But how many conflicts do you have that for in history? Very few. It captures the imagination. It's created so many games. It's created so many visuals to this because people are warranted to like this period so much. It's a clash of worlds with everything at stake. Religions at stake, artifacts, ideologies, ways of government, everything you want, and of course, incredibly interesting and diverse battle techniques and tactics. So the Crusaders do make this amazing boxing partner for the Islamic world, which eventually loses out. But before they lose, they have a lot of hurrahs. The great rivalry between Richard and Saladin is everybody knows it, even if they don't know anything about the Crusade. It's just a classic matchup. I would not even wager in the Islamic world in all of history. Crusaders versus the Islamic world is one of the best matchups, most interesting rivalries. They sometimes even ally with each others. They fight, they hug, they kiss it out, and they fight again until eventually the Mamluks wrap up what's left. And I think it's just a great story. Time.
So I have to put my case forward about why this is the best rivalry.
Yes.
Okay, so if we're talking about the Islamic world, this is going to be quite a Middle Eastern centric viewpoint, but I would argue that because they came from the Middle East and the most prominent powers, most of them were based or had an affiliation with the Middle East. I would say that that area is probably the most important to the Islamic world. And in the early modern period, which is this really, really essential time period where it like bridges the gap, again, acts like a conduit, my favorite word today, between the medieval and the modern period. The Safavids and the Ottomans are essentially fighting for supremacy in the Middle East. And it's not just supremacy of who wins politically, I guess. It's also to do with culture, I guess, language, religion, or sects of religion. Ottomans were Sunni, the Safavids were Shia, and they were militantly Shia, where they essentially enforced Shiism on their citizens in Persia. And if in the end, spoiler alert, the Ottomans won, and that's why you can attribute a lot of the Middle East's identity, at least in the last 400 years, to the way that it is now because of that victory. But just think about what if the Safavids had won? What would Syria look like? What would Iraq look like? What would Eastern Anatolia, the Safavids even, went into Eastern Anatolia, what would all of those areas look like? And I think it would be radically different.
Time. Perfect. Sawish?
Well, the Marathas were this. The story of the Marathas is sort of the story of the underdogs. They were in the Deccan and they rose up, and Aurangzeb spent the last 25 or so years of his life trying to destroy the Marathas, but he couldn't do that. And eventually, it ended with eventually, like 50 years after his death, the Marathas came up and they took Delhi and turned the Mughal Empire, which had once almost destroyed them. The Aurangzeb had taken one of their emperors, and he had scooped his eyes out and tortured him and killed him. And then he had taken his son as a prisoner, and still the Marathas were able to come back in just 50 years and take everything from basically the southern tip of the Indian subcontinent to the borders of modern day Afghanistan. So I think that that's a very interesting story, not just because of the sheer power that the Marathas had, but because of how much comes out of this entire story. Like today, to Indian nationalists or Hindu nationalists, maybe I should say, it's a very very relevant story. But in general, I think that they have the coolest story, because the Marathas and the Mughals at the end of the day were not all that different. They were pretty much the same. The Marathas were technically a confederation, but you can make the argument that there was some confederation going on with the Mughals as well. So I think that in terms of that this is a story of an antithesis to
Time.
antithesis that weren't exactly that different.
Very nice.
Opening salvos wise, I think this was the most balanced debate so far. Really, really strong on each side. Okay. Both of you tell very compelling stories. However, you fail to convince me why, like, what are the stakes? At the end of the day, it sounds like you're giving me a different kind of a flavor, but the flavor is not chocolate or vanilla. The flavor is cream or vanilla, or chocolate with hazelnuts. In both cases, you have these two states that are fighting for supremacy and influence, and whether the other one won, I don't see that much of a difference. It's less cool of a story. There are really cool human elements with scooping of the eyes and everything. I like those. When it comes, it just doesn't compare to the Crusaders versus the Islamic world. The stakes are everything. These two people hate each other, and it's a clash of civilizations that doesn't come often. People overhype how much of it is, but it still is. I would not say that Sunni versus Shia is a clash of civilization.
Can I say?
Yeah.
All right, two things. Firstly, I feel like I'm saying this a lot with Georgie, and I hope he doesn't, take this personally. But again, that's quite a European-centric view, man. Because
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the Crusades were not that important. Like, it is very, very overblown, its importance. The fact that it's a clash of civilization, I need to do a video on this. I should have done it a few weeks ago, where I argue it's not a clash of civilization. But one thing you said that I did like was that it has captured. It doesn't matter if it wasn't a clash of civilization. If people think that it was, it's captured their imagination, and that's pretty cool. Siawish, I would say that whilst it is a really cool story in the sense that the underdog ultimately triumphs, I feel like you just shot yourself in the foot by saying that they weren't that different. So therefore, it doesn't really make a difference who wins. Whereas with the Sunni and the Shia, dude, are you crazy? You don't know if you care if who wins. It's like two different universes. If one wins, things are gonna look like this, and then if the other wins, things are gonna look like that, and it's totally different. Yeah.
Okay, we were talking about the coolest rivalries, not the most influential rivalries, I think.
Yeah.
Wait. What was the
I might
question?
have
Was that what it was?
Coolest
I might have-
rivalries. Yeah.
I might have misunderstood the question, but what's
Okay.
the coolest? And
Yeah.
I think that this is not a part of the rebuttal, but I think that it's cool. It is sort of this moral dilemma or something. I like stories like that, where they're both ultimately not that different, but in propaganda.
Wait, should I
and
start the
everything,
counter?
Of course,
Okay.
man. Don't give him.
I was confused. Like,
This game is rigged, man. We like them little bitches on the chessboard.
Okay, start the counter now.
I'll give you a timer. You got 50 seconds though.
Now,
Yes.
you might say that the Crusades were a clash of civilizations, but so was the Maratha and Mughal struggle. If you take a look at it from the Hindu nationalist perspective, then they will say that this is India, Hindu India, coming back against 800 years of foreign invaders. everything is on the is on the stake right here. There's nothing more important to that kind of India than this particular thing. And the Shia versus Sunni sect, I mean, it's ultimately Muslim. I mean, you might say this is Shia, this is
You don't believe
Sunni.
that.
It's basically the same. But that's the thing. And if the Mughal and the Maratha rivalry did not exist, it's possible that one of them, the Mughals, could have been strong enough to actually take on the British. So in terms of influential, it's quite a serious thing. Without the Marathas, they certainly would have been able to fight back. Well, not really. Well, it's difficult. I mean, you can make the case that they would have been able to fight back Nadir Shah because they had lost Gujarat and all these in different raids. They weren't powerful enough.
Honestly, boys, I think this was the best round. Like in every
Such a strong round.
Yeah,
Such a
this was the
strong
best.
round. But I do want to say something for everyone watching. I am definitely more of a what I want to do most. I want to talk about Venice and medicine and Mongols and all that stuff, of course, and I have my levels of expertise. But I think I am representing a lot of people who are Eurocentric.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm so happy. And that's even part of my role. I'm trying to improve. And I think the best way to improve is having guys like this on the podcast. And you can see the perspective, and you may not even agree with it, but at least you should see the other side.
Yeah.
Check out their channel and really understand that all of our opinions should constantly change and evolve. And the best way for them to evolve is by instead of doing the legwork for yourself, is watching a video from a guy who's done the legwork all of his life.